Thank you, Megan, and thank you everyone for coming. I'm Amir, I know most of you obviously. And the band is Yes, Exactly Yes, with Andy, Andre, and Justin. Like Megan said, this is really a collaboration where it's really awesome. At the end, if you want, we can hang out a little bit and talk about how it all happened. But we try to really connect the text and the sound together. So it is, like Megan was saying, it's a weird occasion. You know, it's around Christmas time, but this was very interesting to me when I read about this episode in one book, and I wondered what the hell happened to this episode in other books and in other places. So I did want to just shout out to one monograph that I found by the Dominican Studies Institute at CUNY. I haven't gotten in touch with them, and I don't know them, but they really brought this episode to life also. And a fellow by the name of Anthony Stevens Acevedos, I really liked it. I just want to mention that since we're recording. But otherwise, a lot of it is a riff, and Megan says maybe we learned something, I'm not sure. Because there's very little about it. But that's exactly the point. And what happened was in December 1521, that's 500 years ago, on lands that didn't have the names that they have now, a group of men rebelled. And I'm getting emotional. It's kind of weird. And they were enslaved by their European captors, and they rebelled on the plantation of Diego Colón, so obviously in what is today the Dominican Republic. And this was really interesting to me from a human perspective, but also everything is an excuse for literature to me also, and performance, and poetry, and theater. But more importantly, it was as a human story that was interesting. So the problem became, it's a momentous occasion because it also led to more rebellions, but nobody, of course, mentions this. And it led to a lot of laws that were crafted around this rebellion that was crushed very quickly. And many of those laws then continued to become the laws of the lands that now we have, that not only defined people as such and such, but also defined the ways that they could move, the ways that they could be, the ways that they could conceive of themselves as others. And so, of course, the problem becomes, how do you write this, right? And so this entire thing, our epic thing, is about how you write something about which there's so little. And that's what it is. So, how to write it? The way to write it is, maybe we write the way they run. The way they write, the way they fall. Maybe we write the way they run, right? The way to tell it is, to write the way they say goodbye, right? The book of sighs tell the faces and the gazes and the cries tell the frozen howls, right? The tears of the trees, right? The telling, right? The book of highs, right? The way to tell it is what the question is. Yes, the question is how to tell it. In 1521, a group of men rebelled. The first revolt in a land called, see this, a vast landscape, a vast desert landscape. In a vast desert yet plush landscape, there were 1,000 divans, 1,000 comfortable beds or seats, next to 1,000 chairs or small rugs. On them sit tellers, 1,000 tellers, and they all tell the same story. Over and over and over again, 1,000 tellers and I sit by a bed or a comfortable divan ready to tell the tale. The same tale as all the others will tell, over and over. The field has been raised, almost as if to make it possible to tell. Ghost-like wanderers sift through this landscape. They wander among these tellers who sit idly by when no one has come to hear their tales. To tell how in 1521 a band of men rebelled, and how you write it, how you write it, the way they run, the way they run, the way, write the way, write the way. The way to tell it is, this is the question, yes, that is the question. The way to tell what? The way to tell what? The way to tell the first revolt in 1521. Tell the anatomy of the revolt and how to write it. Como contarlo? Como contarlo? Como? With so little information, so few mentions, the non-completion is all that can be told. The unreliability is all that can be told. The untellability is all that can be told. So little forgotten. The rebellion of 1521. An anatomy of a rebellion. That's the way to tell it. To write the way they call, the way they say goodbye. The book of signs. Tell the book of signs. But there is the earth, and the trees, and the sky. And there is the legend of the river. They say that a ghost appears in the sky every fortnight before the celebrations. They say that at a precise hour, a curious howl in the sky appears. Whose howl is that in the deep, dark sky? Along with the death screams of the rebel, they say that the earth knows. They say the trees see and do not forget. They say that even the clouds of the sky, don't ask me how, the earth and the sky and the gods of battle and the gods of martyrs and the gods of rebellions remember always the revolted men of 1521. They have made a way for you, for us, and that howl in the sky. It is the ghosts of massacres past, these ghosts of rebellions past, the gods, the angels. They have raised the field and offered us a glimpse, the faces of the rebels. The earth and the sky, the trees and the dunes, the vanquished gold, and the ghosts of centuries lost. They say that the earth knows it all. I've heard it said that the earth itself tells the tale if we knew how to listen. I've heard it said there are no ghosts. I've heard it said, but no, there are ghosts if we know how to listen. At Christmas time of 1521, a group of men rebelled on the sugar plantation of COLÓN. And I listened to the sky, I listened to the trees, and that is how you tell. And the wind can tell us about the blood, and the sky can tell us about the cries, the trees can tell us about the screams. They will all tell us about the wounds of the men. And I listened, and at the precise hour, I too saw the howl in the sky. I saw the waters, and I turned, and I ran, and I ran, and I ran along the river at speeds unfathomed. I ran by the trees and the rocks, and the children marching along. I ran by the passers-by and the smiling boys and the sullen souls. I ran by the men coming back. I ran by the motorcyclists and the cars along the roadway. I ran and I ran and I ran to save my soul. The sound of blood and the cries of the sky. I ran and all those riverbanks that seemed faster and faster to save my life. So the legend goes. At the precise hour, along the riverbanks, a curious howl appears in the sky. Is it your howl? Is it the rebel's howl? Is it the howl of the ghost or the howl of the watcher? Who hears it? Only those hear them, the legend goes. Only those hear them who have seen men and rebel, who know of men, who rebel, who want the lust for revolt. I ran and I ran, I endlessly ran down the hill and along the bank. I ran and I ran and I ran by the walkers and the runners. I ran and I ran to avert my eyes and to save my soul. Dig, 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 dig. Dig. What are we doing here? Dig. Rebels. Arms, yells, screams. Dig. Rebels, rebels. In this forsaken place, we are trying to do what? On these sides. We're trying to do what exactly? We dig. We dig, 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 dig. We are diggers, not for heroes, not for villains. We're diggers, diggers dig. We dig, we want to know what's going on. We want to know what's going on here on these grounds. We dig, we are diggers. Diggers dig, diggers, 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 dig, 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 dig. We dig truth. We dig for truth. We dig for memories. We dig for wounds. We dig wounds. We dig wounds. We dig wounds. We dig scars. We dig graves. We dig graves. We dig deep within to find the courage to dig some more. We dig deep within. We dig deep within to find the courage, to dig some more and never let go. We dig into scared faces. We dig into scarred faces. Scared faces, scarred faces. We dig into forgotten lands. We dig into wounded lands. We dig in the wounds of lands. We dig in the wounds of lands. Even if nobody else has seen the wounds of these lands, we dig into them. We dig into forgotten tales. We dig into forgotten episodes. We dig into the dirt. Who doesn't dig into dirt? We dig into the dirt. We dig into the dirt of all lands. We dig into the dirt of all lands. We don't limit ourselves to my land or your land. We dig into the dirt of all the lands, not just our own. We dig into the dirt of everybody and all the lands. We dig their dirt to find the wound. We dig into the dirt to find the wounds of all the lands, the wounds that accompany you, that accompany us. We dig into the wounds, into the minds of rebels. We dig into the thirst for blood of the Spanish colonialists. We dig into their thirst for riches and gold. We dig into their thirst for growth. We dig. And we dig into the wounds that they create. We dig into the wounds across the globe. We dig into the Isle of Stars. We dig across the plantation, all the plantations. We dig into the homes. We dig into the words and the roots of words. So deep the wound of words. And across the same land, the same field we dig. We dig into the words, into the world. We dig into the earth. We dig into cemeteries. We dig into the bones of words. We dig into the bones, the word bones, the word bones. We dig into the crimes of centuries past. And dig this. We dig into the bones of ghosts. Yes, ghosts have bones. We dig into them. And I walked along those fields, and 500 years later, and still along the same riverbanks, and still along the same roads, the bodies dig, 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 into the bones of ghosts, in the fields and the dirt of all the land, and in the scared faces and the scarred faces of all the lands. We dig, 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 dig. We are diggers, and diggers dig. We dig into this archipelago of wounds. We are diggers into the legends. We are diggers into the bones of ghosts. Diggers into the bones of ghosts. And we are diggers into the names, into the faces. We are diggers. We dig, dig, dig. I'm a digger. Digger dig. Diggers dig. Dig into the bones of ghosts. And we dig into the names. Just tell their names. That's what we should do. Just tell their names. Nothing else. No plays, no ghost stories, no bones of ghosts, no digging, no ambiguous dialogue. Just say their names. Just say their names, but what were their names? An actor comes forward. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to have a bunch of people say their names. I'm the first victor of the first revolt of the slave trade in what has come to be called the Americas. The continent will be divided. My name is... I would like to show you the way I succumbed to my wounds. I am the first to have murdered with a revolt in the Americas. Everyone wants their first. Right, but my name is a nostalgic dreamer. I long to tell of the day. A hero without a name is what I am. Hero without a name, there's heroes without a name. My name is... I grabbed him like so, and he was more cowardly than I thought. El Matador. Their cavalry that came up to me. The cavalry followed me. The cavalry. My name is... I'll laugh in your face always, fuckers. How do you say that in Espanol? I am a witness to the first murder within the revolt. They are both from black, they are both from above, and I stabbed him. My name is... I stabbed him right in the balls. I've long thought of changing names, different names, pseudonyms. Take our time to tell. I was a child of one of the revolt men. They came to take us lessons, take us away. But some of the men ran away. Some of the men ran away. The maroon. My name is. Give their names. What are their names? Whose names do you give when you don't know their names? When they've been stripped of their names? When their names are ways of rooting their enslavement? Say their names. Whose names do we say? When the names are the roots of their new lives. Tell their names. Tell their names. Tell their names. Their own names. Their names at birth. The names in the bosom. What could have been their names, echoes of their names. But what if all given names? What if all given names are names of oppressors? Your name, my name, all of our names are names of oppressors. Every name is the word of an oppressor. The administrator, the conquistadores, the scholars, the slave makers, the theorists, the law writers, the lawgivers, the religious folks. So maybe. No name. Say not their name. Don't say their name. Don't Just tell their names. Tell the names and the tones and nothing else. Just list. No ghost stories. No ambiguous dialogues. No bones, but what were their names? The departure. Where they are. The plantation of Diego Colón. A silence and a solitude. Or is it a boisterous gathering? How does it launch? How does it? Who has the right to imagine? Are there loved ones to embrace? Are there goodbyes to tell? Are there belongings to tuck away? Are there items to hand down? Are there priceless gems? Are there the premonition that lives will be lost? They will lose their lives. Lives will be lost. So is it an embrace? Is it tears? The objects, the gazes, whose eyes do they gaze in? The gaze in the distance, the gaze askance, the gaze in the eyes of those they embrace. Maybe. Who will? Who will? Who? The arms they made were the stuff of every day. Hammers and sickles and nails and knives and machetes. Objects turned into arms. They took the machetes and the arms they made, the knives and the stones. What other arms? What other arms do they take? The machete. They say the machete is made up. They say the machete, a simple machete, knives, stones. With those they walk along the river and attack the colonial essence. With machetes and uprising, who could dream of that? The clothes they wear, there's no armor, there's no protection. Is it sandals? Are they really wearing sandals? Is it sandals, only sandals? But then of what sandals? What? Necklaces, armbands, loose shirts, machetes, knives, stones, sandals, loose shirts, armbands on foot along the river and attack and kill, yes, kill, they kill. How fast do they walk? They must walk pretty fast. And trinkets, little stones, good luck charms, bandanas in your pocket. Who is telling us any of this? The moments they wait. The wait is long. But it is painless because there's nothing bigger than this mission. And this wait is to start on a long, long road that goes on and on for 500 more years. 500 years. It keeps going on, people. All the little shit is little rebellions with little trinkets and little sandals and little shorts and little shirts all over the universe. Little bands are rebelling just like these fuckers of 500 years ago. So the wait is long, but it doesn't matter because they will walk along the river. They march along the riverbank and along the river in these movements. They will assemble the first revolt, the first revolt, the great liberation, the river, all along the river. And then there's the silence, that moment of silence they know. The moment of silence they cherish and know. Do they know the moment of silence? Do they really? Yes, they do know the moment of silence. The silence before. There is a silence before. There is a silence before. A great song. There is a silence before. There is a silence before because they believe. They believe they will be free. They believe play. That's the way to write it. Maybe that's what we should do. We make a play. Not a play itself, but the making of it. That's the only way to do it. Structure of a play, actors, interactions. Not the play, but the making of a play. Okay, here we go. The lights go off. There is commotion. Silhouette of a couple of men at the moment of uncertainty. Silhouette of men pondering together. Actions. The lights come on. The lights come on. The lights go back out. A slight wait. Lights come back on, and we see the same people engaged across, but in slightly different position. The lights come back on. The lights go back out. The lights. I don't know. Making of a play, but maybe the only truth. There is one truth only. We hear human screams. The screams continue. They're muffled. They come from all directions. They are sudden. They suddenly die out. They're only imagining it. No, there are screams. It's not an illusion. There are screams. Commotion! Commotion. The director says we have to make a decision. All this actors. Who gets to decide? Who has the right to decide? Who has the right angle? Los hombres de la primera rebeldía tienen furia. Los hombres are not happy. Where do you begin? Donde uno comienza? The lights come on. The director is not happy with the play. The lights go off. How do we begin? Where do we begin? An actor appears out of nowhere. The camera focuses on their face. All everything that they're doing. Lo que está pasando. Todo lo que está pasando. ¿Cómo piensan? Let's do it in Wolof. Maybe we do it in Wolof. That was the language of these folks from Senegal. I'm Amir. I'm angry. I'm a Tayal. This must end, they're thinking. This must end. This must end. That's what they're thinking. That's the only truth. This must end. This must end. This must end. This is what they're thinking. This must end. The lights go back on. The lights. Oh, the lights off. Turn it back on. Maybe the lights need to come back on. Yeah. That's how we're going to do the play. But all of a sudden the screams come again. All of a sudden there are screams, because the screams are the only real thing. Where were they? How did they manage to organize? How did they get together? How did they get together and grab all they needed? All the stuff that they needed. How did they get it? Who knows? Well, we know. The only real thing ever are the screams. The only short thing are the screams. The only real things are the screams. Turn the lights off! Turn the lights off! The only real thing ever are the screams. Turn the lights on. Lights on, says the director of the play. Silence. This is where we must begin. In the mind of the rebel. The mind of the rebel. But only the screams are real. The only thing ever that is real are the screams. Save the men of the rebellion. The men of the first revolt have no fear. The men of the first revolt are hardened. The men have nothing to lose. In 1521, they rebelled. That was the first revolt. Lights back out. The lights are back out. If they're the first, what are they thinking? Do they think, how did we end up here? How the fuck did we end up on a slave as slaves? Or do they not think? They're like, no, I'm just happy over here doing my little slave thing. They're not thinking that. Or do they think they have enslaved us and we must escape? We must liberate. This must end. This must end. This must end. That's what this play will be about. It'll be called This Must End. Are they thinking new world? No, they're thinking new nightmare. Are they thinking discovery? No, not a discovery. Madre Patria? I don't think so. I don't think so. Only the screams are real. Only the screams are real. Only the screams in the dark. cuts, burns, cries. Cut, burn, cries, cuts, burns. Cuts, burns, corpses. Cuts, cries, corpses. Cut this first burn, the first burn. Cuts, cries, corpses, attack back. Attack without how do I stand? Where must I stand or sit? Who tells, who watches? Cut the first burn. Now, the rebellious man who did kill, who did attack, who did plunder, they did. But those rebellious men now have been attacked back. And in the eyes of men are told stories of rage. In their eyes are told the stories of, look at their muscles on their necks and faces. Look how the muscles of their faces tense up the physiology of the attack. A sculptor is needed maybe, or a painter is what we need. Grabbing, killing, holding, oh, the cavalry has arrived. Oh, the cavalry has arrived. It's cuts and cries in this first counter, in this surprise attack along the route. What was the route? It was along a river. Along the river, baby. In your land. Along the river in your land. That was their route. And they got attacked by the cavalry. The river, the route. They're using their machetes, using the along the route. And we don't know when the cavalry attacked. We don't know when they arrived, but they move really fast. How many were there? They say there were 20. Some say there were 40. That's it? 20, 40? We're making a big deal out of 20 and 40. Yes, we are. We are making a big deal. And they're attacked back along the route. Cuts and cries. We don't know how to count them. They don't stand a chance against the guns and the horses. They don't stand a chance. How many? No one knows for sure. How many? No one knows for sure. These bodies strewn along the landscape, the courses of the rebellion, hacked, shot, hung, charred remains they are along the river. They tell the tale of millennial destruction, 500 years. 500 years of corpses along the river. This is the year, the 500th year of the river. Along the riverbanks of memories, along the riverbanks of souls, along the riverbanks with ghosts and bones of ghosts and wounds of ghosts and wounds of lands and dirts of lands. Along the riverbanks and memories of ghosts, the hunted. Cuts and cries and corpses, the blood of those bones, those bodies. I'll tell you what happened since. This is what's happened. Along mountain passes, on the city streets and the back alleys of these city streets, at night and in the day, the wounds are with us still. The wounds are with us still. And the rebellion have never ceased. The cuts and the burns and the cries and the corpses, they have never ceased. We just classify them. The corpses of the rebels line these streets, except that they are not streets, man, they're riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses of rebels along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses of rebels along riverbanks. An archipelago of unseen corpses, cuts and burns and corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. Cuts and burns and cries and corpses, 500 years. Who does the howling? Who does the calling? Who does the screeching and the laughing? Cuts and burns and cries. Who are the criers? 500 years. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks, cuts and burns. Cuts and burns, cuts and burns, cuts and burns, and corpses, 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. No lloren, no, nadie llora. Who has the right to tell of these cuts and corpses? Who has the right to tell of the cuts and cries and burns? We all have the right. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. The cry, the echo of the cry. Cuts and burns and cries and screams. The screams of honor, the screams of fear. More laughter and screeching with cuts and burns and corpses. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. Cuts and burns and cries. Cuts and burns, cuts and burns. Cuts and burns and cries. And 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. Of all the world, 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along all the river's banks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. After this first revolt, 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years, 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. 500 years, 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. Cuts and cries and birds and corpses along riverbanks. 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. Sorry. Heavy stuff. It's heavy. Frozen howl. Their eyes. Enraged. Their eyes. Them that laughing. Eyes of the convinced. Their eyes. Their heads. The cheeks. The neck. What is the position of the body? Position of the body. Do they talk? Ask the question. Ask the question. The question's asked. Ask the question. Ask the question. The question. What is the question? The question is, whose how is that in the deep, dark sky? Whose frozen how do I see in the deep, dark sky? Ask the question, why? Why do I see a frozen how in the deep, dark sky? Ask the question, ask the question, ask the question, ask the question, ask the question. Which question? The question is, whose frozen how is that in the deep, dark sky? Whose frozen how do I see in the deep, dark sky? Whose frozen how do I see in the deep, dark sky? Dead leaves on the ground, dead on the ground. There are dead men on the ground, dead men on the ground. And there is a frozen howl in the sky. Whose frozen howl? Whose frozen howl? See them how defenseless they fall out by the edge. The howl. The young, rustling, the sky, the others. Who are they? Who? There is a silence that have known. The silence it is. Incomplete sentences, sudden words. His eyes, his eyes, his eyes, her eyes, her eyes, her eyes, his neck, her neck, their gaze, their gaze, their hands, his hands, her hands, his back, her back, his back, his feet, her feet. Ask the question, ask the question. Who's frozen howl? Watch, it's over! He's dead, bodies on the ground. Who's frozen howl? Is that in the deep dark sky? And is it watching over his eyes and necks and backs? Who's frozen howl? Is that in the deep dark sky? Their fates, one at a time, nameless. Ghosts and frozen howls when you walk along the river. When you walk along the river, you will see a frozen howl in the deep dark sky. Only if you believe in the lust for revolt, then you too will see the frozen howl. If you believe in the lust for revolt among humans, you will see the frozen howl. That was the legend. Is that what we see in the deep dark sky after 500 years? 500 years. Whose frozen howl is that in the deep dark sky? Whose frozen howl is that in the deep dark sky? Of scars. The voices shout, we are all players in a millennial drama. All there are, all there ever are, all there ever is a spectacle, and we are all players in a millennial drama. And these rebels on this island of scars, what will they do to us? They're wondering, what will they do to us? At the end, we, free men, will know to shoot dead men on the ground. We are all players in the millennial drama on an island of scars, calling upon the gods to seize this madness. Who are the gods? Who is the god? Let's seize this madness! An island of stars for all the blank pages of history. And the voices shout, we are all players in the millennial drama of this and all the coming islands of stars. It must be enough to awaken and rebel, awaken and rebel, awaken and rebel on all these islands of endless enduring stars. Awaken and rebel. And whisper, it must be enough. We are all players in a millennial drama, all players on this island of stars. What will they do to us? What will they do to others on this island of endless scars? Rebel and free men and whisper. Their stage, a voice in these lands under the sky. A Spaniard was killed with my bare hands before I also fell. Páginas blancas. Tell us how we must deal with the blank pages of history. How to deal with the páginas blancas. How do we deal with the blank pages of history? You must have thought about this. How do we deal with it? What do we do with all the blank pages? Literally endless and eternal blank pages. We're going to imagine authors unwriting the blank pages of history. We're going to imagine authors unwriting. That's how you deal with it. There's nothing in the books. I've seen the books. You've seen the books. There's nothing in the books. There's always nothing in the books. Always nothing. Not never nothing. Always nothing. There's always nothing in the books. I can show that to you. One little passage here. Just a little reference, a cursory reference. Nothing, just a little something by the governor and the historian. Nothing in the other books or in the annals of officialdom. Nothing on plates or streets, but something along the road. Here, 500 years ago, a band of men rebelled. No, there's nothing. Nothing. There's always nothing. Always a history of absence. How to tell of this absence? How do we tell the story, the history of absence? How do we tell the story of the blank pages of history? I opened some books. I opened a lot of them. Here's a little passage, page 128 and 129 of the historian Orlando. He writes that the slaves fueron cruelmente aplastados, pero su ejemplo fue seguido por otros esclavos que empezaron a desertar de los ingenios y a refugiarse en las montañas. He writes that they were cruelly crushed, but that their example was little by little followed by other slaves. Who rebelled. So let's say it louder. Say it louder, write it bigger on the pages. Fueron cruelmente aplastados. Bigger and bigger the words. We write the words bigger and bigger on the page, and we fill out the pages. We fill out the pages. Bigger and bigger the syllables and the letters. Fueron cruelmente aplastados. Fueron cruelmente aplastados. Fueron cruelmente aplastados. How? No one says how and why. Who did it? Who did it? What happened to them? How do they do it? What happened? Tell us. Nothing in the books. There's nothing in the books. Always nothing. Páginas blancas. The blank pages of history. But we're going to make it bigger, bigger type. Bigger type, bigger syllables. Para que todo el mundo vea que faltan las palabras. Que faltan las palabras y oraciones. Y páginas blancas. We're going to write the words big words. Big words. I promise you, big words. So that the pages get filled. Blank pages of history, how to imagine it. Because this way the revolution was not analyzed. The revolution was not digitized. There's nothing in the books. You read nothing, always nothing in the books. You read nothing in the books, nothing in the books, nothing. Nothing in the annals, just a little reference or a cursory reference. And the rebellion is not concretized. It's not achieved. It's not analyzed. It's not archived. It's not realized. We didn't know about this, folks. Nobody knows about this. You know about this now. Hopefully you'll never forget about this. There's nothing to narrate. The rebellion was not televised. It was not televised. There will not be a television show. It was not digitized. The rebellion was not cinematized or monetized. It was not bookified or storified or analyzed. Well, we are going to launch the eradication of Páginas blancas. We're going to strike through all the blank pages of history. We're going to have strike-throughs across all the blank pages. And we're going to say that in 1521, a band of men rebelled. And we're going to write their gritos. And we're going to write thousands and thousands thousands of pages, because we can afford it. Oh yeah, we can afford it. We can afford writing thousands and thousands of pages of history, a few words per page, to make you ponder each page, so that you have to read each page. You have to read every single page, the blank pages of history. Come on, you have to read them, all the blank pages of history. You're gonna have to read the blank pages of history. Read the blank pages. Read the blank pages of history. Read the blank pages of history. The blank pages. Read the blank pages of history. Of history, as blancas. We're gonna strike through all the blank pages. We're gonna strike through all the blank pages of history. All the blank pages of history. We're gonna strike through. How many times have I written it? How many times? We're gonna start the eradication of the páginas blancas, the eradication of the blank pages of history. We shall eradicate the blank pages of history, and we'll have thousands and thousands and thousands of blank pages, and we'll fill the blank pages, and we'll read the blank pages. The revolution will be realified. The eradication of blank pages, and the revolution will be realified. It will be pagified. It will be vilified, and the revolt of 1521, the revolt of 1521 will have occurred, and the blank pages of history will be history. The blank pages of history will be history. Just write the breath, restless breath. We'll write the breath, write the run, write the dash, write the run, write the breath. Horses, foot, horses, foot. Write the horses, write the foot, write the feet, the horses, write the running, write the moment. One place to another, one place far, one place close, one place far, right. Right how the men, right. Right the men, right the horses, right the foot, right the foot, right the horses, right the running. Right the horses, right the horses, right the running, right the running, right the running, right the running. Boots, machetes, right the forces, right the running, the chaos of the breath, the chaos of the breath, the chaos of the fear breath, death breath, look at the front, the cavalry, the horses, right to that, escape breath, stop breath, escape breath, sight breath, solid breath, run breath, the run, right the run, the brave breath, fear breath, death breath, fear breath, death breath, fear breath, solid breath, escape breath, walk breath, death breath, right the run, 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 look at the run, run breath, articulate the reason, the hope, the fear, the horses following, the gun, the machete, the way, the TODO, the delirium, right the delirium, right the delirium of the sea laughing, the delirium, right, just right the delirium, right the delirium, there's nothing else, right the delirium, no play, no names, no nothing, right the delirium, the boys, the men, the dash, the delirium, right the breath, the delirium, Mira, the losing the breath, when you, death breath, run breath, now breath, later breath, when you get him, got him, delirium, hang him, in the dirt, delirium, stabbing, delirium, gun, the killing, the hacking, the hiding, kill, stab, the delirium, kill, yes, I leave, yes, kill him, ninguna palabra, solo, hombres, gritos, death breath, run breath, delirium, the stage, run, páginas blancas, como no ninguna palabra, solo, gritos, delirium, right the run, right the men, dashing, right the men running, right the kill,
right the kill, run the gun, right the gun, right the gun, right the horse, the delirium, right the run, breath, death, breath, stop breath, run the, right the, death breath, right the kill, right the run, right the breath, right the men running, right the horses, right the dash, right the men, the death breath, the pages, empty pages, the men, the horses, the cavalry, the jerk, the hanging, the killing, the maiming, right, the renegades, right the renegade, the breath of the renegade, right the rebel, right the rebel, right the kill, right the kill, right the death breath, done, breath, done, breath, done, breath, done, kill, done, breath, normal, right, the breath, right, the run, right, the dash, right, the run, breathe, when you, right, the breath, now, breath, when, breath, right, breath, death, breath, run, breath, right, the breath, right, the breath, right, the death breath, run, breath, death breath, run, breath, run, the breath, death breath, run, breath, run, breath, silent breath, run, the death breath, run the breath, run the kill, run the horses, run the run, run the right, right the run, right the run, right the run, right the fall, right the fall, right the fall, right the falls, right the death, right the death breath, run breath, death breath, run breath, death breath, run breath.
Long ago, I imagined in another world, on a rooftop, how the generals fell when they were shot. Long ago, others in their madness of revolt and resistance and rebirth also fell. They fell across the fields. They fell by shots. They fell during an attack. All fall. All fall. All lie in their bloods, and so here now I ask again, all those who lie in these fields, all those who lie along the riverbanks, struck down, shot down, hacked down, how did they fall? How did they fall? When the surprises happened and when the attacks happened, working in the fields, working in the house, surprise, running. Hey! How do they fall? Who is guilty for the fall? How did he fall? Hey! Did they fall on their right side? Did they fall on their back? Did their head snap when they fell? Did they fall forward? Hey! When they were stabbed or shot or caught from behind, how did they fall? Did they fall when they ran away? And when they fell, did they get back up and fall again? Or did they get back up, hoping again that they will never fall again? Running, do they fall and try slowly to get up? And how do they fall again? up only to fall again, fall forward. The way they fall, the way they ran the breathless run, thinking, dreaming still of how they could run without falling ever again. Hey! When they got shots or hacked or stabbed, did they fall alone? Or did they fall with others also falling? Do their ghosts whose bones we dug into, do the ghosts of massacred rebels also fall again? And again do ghosts fall? Is there a story told of all the falls? Is this the story of a fall after all? And the children, did the children fall when they watched their fathers fall? Did the children fall when they watched their fathers fall? Did they fall after their fall? How many falls shall we enact? How many falls can we seek? How many falls do we know? How many fall? How many falls can we tell? How many falls can we dig into? How many falls? How many fall? How many falls can we depict? How many fall? When will we know? How many falls shall we portray? How many fall? How many falls? How many fall in these 500 years of corpses along riverbanks? Who now falls? Who now is falling? How did they fall? Did they fall on their right when they got shot? On their left? Forward and back? The mayordomo falls this way on his ass. The rebel falls that way. And the horses, they fell too. They collapsed to the ground. A mass of poetry falling with a hacking. How many fall? Will we ever know how many fall in these 500 years of corpses along the bank? How many fall? How do they fall? How many fall? How many fall? How do they fall? How many fall? How do we portray all the falls? All the falls! All the falls in the city streets and along riverbanks and on the mountain slopes. All the falls. How many fall? And when they fall, do they get back up, hoping they will never fall again? Only to fall for the last time. Fall for the last time. Never to fall again. How will we write the chapter on the fall? Will we one day tell all the ways they fall? We will one day tell all the ways they fall. All the ways. Standing across the continent, watching over the massacres, is offended that the slaves want to leave the plantation. Standing erect,
looking across the continent, from the plazas of the continent, Don Cristóbal Colón is offended, then scared, then angered, then happy that the men of his son's military have come to the defense and massacred all the rebels. Don Cristóbal Colón in Columbus Circle in New York shouts out to his homies in the field, singing their praises for putting down the rebellion. Don Cristóbal Colón, standing in the zona colonial of Santo Domingo, is shouting to his homies in the field and singing their praises for putting down the rebellion. Don Cristóbal Colón, standing at the entrance in San Juan, Puerto Rico, is shouting to his homies in the field and singing their praises for putting down the rebellion. My son, my son, how dare they? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? The statue of Don Cristóbal Colón across all the countries of the continent, across all the countries of the continent, are upset and then happy, and they shoot all the rebels, all the statues of Don Cristóbal Colón across all the continent come alive. They come alive and they shoot all the rebels of all the countries of this continent. How dare they? How dare they? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? The statues of Columbus across all the countries of the world, this planet, come alive and shoot all the rebels of all the countries on this planet, happily laughing at their massacre. How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? Well, the statues of Christopher Columbus across all the planets of our galaxy, across all the planets of our galaxy, come alive and shoot all the rebels of all the planets of all of our galaxy. How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? The statues of Don Cristóbal Colón erected across all the galaxies, all the planets of all the galaxies come alive in laughter and hold hands with all the other statues of Christopher Columbus across all the planets of all the galaxies and shoot all the rebels that have ever existed on all these galaxies. How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? And yes, there's the last one. There's the last one. Because all the statues of Christopher Columbus and all the galaxies of all the universes, of which apparently there are now 11, all the 11 universes, all the statues, the millions of statues statues of Christopher Columbus on all of the planets, of all the galaxies, of all the universes. Hold hands and shoot and kill all the rebels. It is a rebel-free universe. How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? They say, how dare they? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son? How dare they want to leave your plantation, my son?
Elegy for a dead rebel. I invite an audience member to come and lie down on the ground. There is a dead rebel on the field. Their clothes are torn and their limbs are cut. Around them, the stillness of savage aftermaths. Al lado del muerto en el quinto centenario, with memories of mutilations of bodies, of dreams, of freedoms. Other rebels were dispersed, and the news is spreading that there are dead rebels on the ground. Al lado del muerto en el quinto centenario, I wonder, how do they know how to flee? After the falls, after the runs, after the cuts and bruises and corpses, 500 years of corpses along the riverbanks, after the blank pages, al lado del muerto, en el quinto centenario, I will make the portraits of the dead rebel. I hear the strange voices that are in the air, elegies to the fallen heroes, elegies to the martyrs of the first revolt, elegy to the warriors, elegy to the poets who sang our songs, elegies to the angels and the ghosts. Aquí estoy, sentado en el terreno, con un muerto a mi lado, mirando nada. Here I am, with the dead on my side. Aquí estoy, caminando al lado del río, donde se revelaron hace 500 años los primeros. Aquí estoy, al lado del muerto en el quinto centenario, in a city now, with our friends, cantando, diciendo la elegía. I tell the elegy of this dead rebel, who is all dead rebels. Y aquí que voy a dejar de ser, pero sin olvidar los gritos en el cielo. I won't forget and always listen to the howls in the skies, the shadows in the wrong walls, the shadows. Aquí estoy, oh dead rebel, aquí estoy. I sit with you, dead rebel. I sit with you. 500 years later, here we are with the dead rebel and the howls and the book of sighs, al lado del muerto en el quinto centenario, where the ghosts still hover by the corpse of a dead rebel en el quinto centenario. And the question persists, whose frozen howl hangs still in the deep dark skies? Oh rebel fallen, I will stay with you. I will stay with you. Aquí estoy, where the screams still echo by the side of a dead rebel. By another riverbank, with the howls and the cries, digging still into the bones of ghosts. I will stay with you, oh dead rebel. Aquí me quedo, al lado del muerto, en el quinto centenario. So we are going to have a 10-minute intermission. We'd like to, there's wine, there's food. And yes, continues in 10 minutes. So see you all then. The fate. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. It is time to come back from intermission. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of the rebel is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of the rebel is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot. The fate of the foot of the rebel is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of the runaway rebel is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of the runaway rebel is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of runaway rebel is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot. The fate of the foot. The fate of the foot. The fate of the foot of the runaway rebel is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. Because the fate, and listen to this, everyone. The fate of the foot of the rebel has now been written into law. The fate of the foot of the rebel is written into law. The fate of the foot of the rebel is not the stuff of legend. It has not been turned into song. It has been turned into law. It has been written into law. The fate of the foot of the rebels is written into law after this revolt. The fate of the foot is written into law. This is the Santo Domingo slave revolt of 1521 and the slave laws that come a few weeks later. Firstly, we order and mandate that all the blacks and whites and Canarians that are slaves who currently wander rebel in this island be forced to come back and return to the service of their masters within 20 days from the day these ordinances are announced, and their masters be obliged to go seeking or sent to seek for them and to subject them to their service under penalty that if within the said lapse they are subdued and gathered away from the said fleeing they are wandering in, that for the same effect the said slave falls into and incurs in the penalty of having a foot cut off, and that if the slave is absent another 20 days, the said slave incurs the penalty of death, which should be given to him by hanging, and that if in the said lapse of time the slave wanders absent, the slave commits some crimes and killings. In such cases, in spite of not having been absent so long, not incurred said penalties, this slave be hanged, for it steal is done with force or killing or robbery. That a foot be cut off. Thank you, Anthony. Furthermore, we mandate that all slaves, black, white, and Canarian, that from hereafter, absent from their masters, be obliged to return to the service of the said master within days, or else 1 foot be cut off. 1 foot be cut off. The fate of the foot of the rebel is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot is the fate of the foot of me. Furthermore, we end the order and mandate that all slaves, black, white, and Canarian. Furthermore, we order and mandate that all slaves, black, white, and Canarian. Furthermore, we order that they all get the fuck back, is what it says. Get the fuck back, or else we will cut off your foot! We order and mandate that all slaves, black, white, and Canarian, who are absent from the service of their masters, be obliged to return to the service of their masters within 10 days, under penalty that if after the said 10 days they were brought over against their will, 1 foot be cut off. Fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of me. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of all. The fate of the foot of the runaway rebellious slave is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of all. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of all. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of all. The fate of the foot of Rebel X is the fate of the foot of you. The fate of the Rebel X. Furthermore, we order that all slaves, black, white, and Canarian, get the fuck back, or else we're gonna cut their fucking foot off. That's the ordinance. Fate of the foot of the rebel is the fate of the fit of you. The fate of the foot of X is the fate of the foot of you. But we have a new decree. We have a new decree. We have a decree that all the descendants and all the descendants of the descendants get fitted with bionic foot, and everyone have 7 foot each, 7 foot, so that they can run along the river. They can run along the river banks, glide along the river banks, run along the river banks with their 7 foot.
the faith of the foot of all. Faith of the foot of X is the faith of the foot of all. Los árboles ahora también están llorando. Los árboles también están llorando. The trees are crying. The trees in their stillness, they see the new decrees. They see the new laws. The trees and the plants, the trees of the oaks, the clouds and the sky. They know what's coming in 1521. They know what's coming. They know what's coming and they're all crying. The trees and the mountains and the rivers. They know what's coming. They know what's coming with the new laws. And for decades and decades and centuries they know what's coming. Los árboles también están llorando, pero nadie lo ve. Nadie los escucha. Nobody listens to the trees, to the ancient trees. Nobody listens. They know what's coming. They've known. And for decades and decades and centuries, they see the laws and the runaways and the fates of the foot. Los árboles también están llorando because they know, big sky, they know what's coming. All of nature, they all know what's coming. The iguanas, the culebras, the iguanas they're looking and calling all over. The iguanas, the plants, the turtles, the santo cocote. Todos están llorando. The wild boars, they have seen and they have sensed. Big and small, they all know what's coming. They know what's coming. They know what's coming. They know what's coming. Culebras, the river turtles. They've all seen it, they've all sensed it. The new laws, the new decrees. They know what's coming. The pigs are squeaking. The pigs are squeaking. The rabbits are jumping. The wild boars are running. They've all seen it and sensed it. They know what's coming, yes. Los árboles están llorando. For centuries now they have been crying, the trees, because they have seen the laws and the decrees. They know what came and they know what's coming. Because these territories had other names. These territories had other names. These territories had names. They have other names. These territories have other names. They had other names, other names, other names. Y los nombres, they count. They count. The names count. Names matter. Yeah, they do. The names. The territories with false names. Don't call them. I'm sorry. Don't call them American. Not even Santo Domingo. I'm sorry. Not Hispaniola. Not Santo Domingo. Not America. No! They don't belong to the Queen of Spain. I don't know what names it should be, but I know they don't belong to the Queen of Spain. Not the Puritans. Not the Christians. No, I'm Nobody. They don't belong to anybody. Colón, despierta. Other names. All these places had other names, not real names, not real names, not the right names, not the right names. Stay with me, not the right names, not the right names, not the right names. Other names, they have these territories. Had other names, always other names. I want to live in these territories without names. I don't accept the new names. I don't accept the new names. I don't like the new names. These new names, I don't accept them. I don't accept them. They're not the right names. They have other names. Whisper with me now, everybody. Whisper with me. Don't worry, it's okay. You can whisper internally. Whisper, not the right names. Not the right names. Towns with wrong names. We got cities with wrong names. We got states with wrong names. Countries with wrong names. Continents, rivers, mountains. All the wrong names, not the right names, not the right names, not the right names. Whisper with me if you want, inside if you want, later in the subway if you're riding the subway, but maybe not if you're driving. Whisper, not the right names, not the right names, not the mountains, not the rivers. No vamos a llamarlo así, no. Not the Spanish names, not the French names, not the English names, not the Dutch names. I don't know what the right names are. Not Saint-Domingue, not Santo Domingo, not Hispaniola, not Aina, nothing. I don't know. Not the right names. Other names, they have these territories and other names. And we're going to change all the names. Yes, we're going to change all the names. We're going to change all the names. We're going to change all the names because they're not the right names. We're going to change all the names. I don't know what the new names are, but we're going to change them all. They are the wrong names. We're going to change all the names, not the right names. Whisper with me, everyone. Whisper with me, not the right names, not the right names. And we're going to change them all. Layer upon layer upon layer. We're going to change all the names. We're going to change all the names. Whisper with me, everyone. Not the right names, not the right names. We're going to make new names. We'll make new names. A new world. We can make our own world. We'll make our own world. Not the right names. Not the Spanish names, not the French names, not the Dutch names, not the British names, not the American names. I don't know what names, but we're going to change them all. We're going to change all the names. And we'll get to a mutilated world. Mutilated worlds of rivers and bodies of humans, bodies of mountains, bodies of rivers, cuerpos. Bodies and rivers, they've all been mutilated. They've all been mutilated, the mountains and the hills and the pathways. They've all been mutilated and they know they've all been mutilated, the rivers, the cuts and bruises. The rivers and the fields, the rivers and the terrains, the mutilated worlds, they've all been mutilated. Los ríos y los terrenos. All a mutilated worlds with the wrong names. We'll give them new names. We'll change all the names. We'll make a new world. Their skins and their souls, the mutilation will be eradicated, just like the white pages and the fallen and the despair and the mutilation. The rivers, the mountains, the rivers, the mountains, the rivers, the mountains, the terrains, the rebels, all the mutilated worlds, all the mutilated souls, all the mutilated worlds and souls will all have new names. Even the ghosts. Remember the ghosts. All the mutilated ghosts will also have new names. They will all have new names. They will all have new names.
mutilated men, the bodies of mutilated mountains, the bodies of mutilated rivers, the bodies of mutilated worlds will all be healed with the new names. Oh, new world. You don't need a lot of words. I know we've used a lot, but you don't really need a lot of words. You don't need many words, just pauses, long pauses. Long pauses, that's all you need. We need long pauses and blanks. Lots of blank pages, the right kind of blank pages. The absence of words. Stares, gazes, long pauses. We need to imagine how things unfold. Do you feel capable of imagining the scenes unfold? So far from being anything like us 500 years ago on this land, can we know how to imagine? Can we know how to imagine from the little bits that we have? We need pauses, long pauses, not to meditate, don't meditate, not to relax or concentrate, not to learn, but to imagine the unfolding, not frantically, not hurriedly, not furiously, no, imagine all the rebels, bodies across the field, the blood and all the nothing. You don't need a lot of words, just a few words. In 1521, a band of men rebelled on the plantation of TIERRA, COLÓN. We need pauses, long pauses, long stares. That's the way to write it. That's the way to just say the words and pause and imagine how in 1521 the first revolt of enslaved people happened on the plantation of TIERRA. You don't need a lot of words, just long pauses. I found a book on the fields. There was no one around in the field, and I found a book. It had appeared somehow. Maybe the wind or a hurricane had dug up the book. There were leaves around the book. How could there be a book and I in this field of empty worlds? It seemed like voices were ringing from long ago in distant lands. Voices of brave men Voices of crying men, voices of screaming men. Voices of dead rebels, voices of the ghosts of dead rebels and their cries and their cuts and their bruises along riverbanks. From 500 years ago, the distant echoes of the ghost screams. In the book of the dead man, there was an ode to the first dead rebel, and a voice, strange voice. I am the first victor of the first revolt, of the slave trade in what has come to be called the Americas. I am a seer, but I'm tired, but we knew that the first revolt would generate many others. And their scream, I would like to show you the way I succumbed to my wounds, said the whisper in the book of sighs. I was on the front, and we made the first attack. We've heard it all before, I know. I told the poet who had accompanied us to imagine the words I would utter under breath when they followed us on their horses and shot us after I fell. I told him, I allowed him. I am the first to have been murdered within a revolt on this land. I am the first to be martyred. Hero without a name is what I am. You've heard it all before, I know. Hero without a name. And when I grabbed the mayordomo, I grabbed him like so. He was more cowardly than I thought, whining like all cowards do, following us on their horses and their guns. And caught the way I fell. In the book of sighs, there's a sigh to the future. Poet who appears, who will write the book of sighs, the book of the first revolt. The book of sighs contains in the book and the secret of the ghosts appearing in the sky. That frozen howl in the sky, the secret was told. Of the sightings by the riverside, of the frozen howl in that deep dark sky. Only the watcher could see, the legend says. Only the rebel lusting for revolt could feel the rebel's soul. Only the crier could hear the rebel's howl. Only the fallen could feel the falling of other rebels. All of that was in the book of sighs, seen and found by the walkers by the riversides, who heard the howls and saw the ghosts of rebels lost 500 years ago. Only the wandering bards could find the book of sighs by the riversides. Only those who saw the frozen howl in the deep dark skies in the book of sighs. Laughing doll, the end all of all. stillness, ambushes, a revolt, a silent. Stars, a laughing doll, it's the end all of all. They're spelling out literally the end of everything. It's the end of all. There's a laughing doll. It's a laughing doll. It's the end all of all. The story, no story, not a story, just a laughing doll. Just a laughing doll telling us how it's all over, all over. It's over. The revolt is over. The laughing doll is telling us it's all over. The first revolt, the uprising is squashed, suppressed, destroyed, crushed. It's over. The rebellion is over. End all of all. It's the end all of all. The stillness and the ambushes and the revolt. Over. A silence. A laughing. No spelling out. It's over. You're crushed. Literally. The end. The end. The end of all. Laughing doll. Laughing doll. It's the end of all. Who are you? Toki hasti. Kebegi. Who are you? To tell of this rebellion. ¿Quién eres tú? Toki hasti. Who are you to be telling this rebellion? Who are you to be telling of this rebellion? Who are you? توکی هستی که داستان این انقلاب رو تعریف کنی. ¿Quién eres tú? If they ask you, ¿quién eres tú? If they ask me, who are you to be telling the story of this revolt? I'll say, man, بچه تهرانم و من انقلاب را دیدم. من بچه ایرانم و من انقلاب را میشناسم. ¿Quién eres tú? Si me preguntan, if they ask me, who are you to be telling of this rebellion? I'll tell them, I am a child of the revolution. 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 And I know the heart of the matter when it comes to the revolt of humans. من این حق را به خودم میدم که تفسیر بکنم. ¿Quién eres tú? If they ask me, ¿quién eres tú? If they ask me, who are you to be telling? I will say, من بچه این سرزمینم. من بچه این جهانم. I am a child of this land. I am a child of this world. و من میگم بی شرم، بی شک، بی hesitancy حق به خودم میدهم که این داستان را بگویم. I give myself the right to tell of this revolt. I give myself the right. If they say, who are you to be telling? I will say, I am a child of the revolution. و به خودم این حق را میدهم که این داستان را بنویسم. ¿Quién eres tú? Who are you? من بچه این جهانم. Who are you to tell the
the revolution. I am a child of the revolution. And I will say the names of the named and the unnamed. And I will point to the 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. I will point to the 500 years because I am a child of the revolution. I am the unnamed rebel. I am a child of the revolution. And I will tell how in 1521 a band of men rebelled. Y lo que su grita. Y me dicen quién eres tú. If they tell me, who are you to be telling this? Tokiasti, I will say, I am a child of the revolution. I will tell the story of the first revolt, because nobody else wants to tell the first revolt story. Nobody wants to. I will tell the story of the first revolt, because I am a child of the revolution. I will tell the story of the first revolt. I will tell the story. So don't ask me, who are you to be telling this story? Don't ask me. Don't say, Tokiasti. Don't say, ¿Quién eres tú? I am a child of the revolution, and we can all tell the story of the rebellion, because this was just the first one. You can do the second, you can do the third, you can do the fourth. There's lots of the revolutions and rebellions, really. Lots and lots, 500 years of corpses along riverbanks. If they say, who are you? If they say, who are you to be telling the story of this revolution? Tokiasti, que dostone in relobre beki. I have my answer. I have my answer. I am a child of the revolution. I am a child of the revolution. I am a child of the revolution. And I give myself the rights to rights the first revolt in the Americas by the enslaved people and the fates of our foot, their foot, my foot, your foot, and 500 years of corpses along riverside. I give myself the right to tell the story and to call out Christopher Columbus's going, how dare you, how dare they leave your plantation. I am a child of the revolution, and I give myself the right to tell the first revolt. Silences, people, the archives of silences. And there's just one more thing that we need to tell you. We'll make the archives of silences. The archives of silences. We will make an archive of the silences. We will make the archives of silences. The silence of the oppressors, the silence of the historians, the silence of the populace, the silence of the tellers, the silence of the governors. We'll make an archive of all the silences. The silence
of the poets, even the silence of the writers, the silence of the academics, the silence of the rebels, even the silence of even the future rebels. And in the archives of silences, in the halls of the archives of silences, we will walk. We will walk in the halls of the archives, where only the echoes of the silences can be heard. In the halls of the archives we will walk. In the halls of the archives, only echoes of the silences. No prayers, no meditations, no reflections. We will put the silences on exhibit. The silence of the governor, the silence of the historians, the archives of the silences. We will make the archives of silences the archives of silences. The archive of silences will become the reckoning. The archives of silences will become the reckoning. We will walk through the halls of the archives of silences and peer at all the silences of the governors and the historians and the poets. And we will make a museum of silences, and that will be the reckoning, the archives of silences. We will build a museum that is the archives of silences and walk along and look at all the silences and listen to all the silences. On the 500th anniversary of the first revolt, we will make the museum of silences. The first revolt, excavating shamelessly, fearlessly these silences, an anthology of silences. That's all maybe we should do. An anthology of silences is this reckoning. And we will look at, and we will listen to, and we will call out, and we will point to, and we will stare at, and we will gaze at all the silences of the governors and the academics and the writers and the artists and the poets, and we will call out all of their silences. We will walk through the halls of the archives of silences and call out all the silences of all the ones who never said a thing about the revolt of 1521.
Of Diego Colón does not exist. Who is this Diego Colón? After all, a spoiled daddy's boy, handed his land and his generational wealth. He didn't exist. The plantation of Diego Colón does not exist because Diego Colón does not exist. Because Christopher Columbus does not exist. Christopher Columbus does not exist. the ship crossing the treacherous waters. You were not forced into forced labor. That did not happen. Misal does not exist. You did not collectively plan this assault. There's no rebellion. This rebellion does not exist because the plantation does not exist, because Diego Colón does not exist, because Christopher Columbus does not exist. You will not flee. You will not gather. You will not gather with your fellow rebels. You didn't rebel. There was nothing to rebel against. Because the plantation does not exist. Because Diego Colón does not exist. Because Christopher Columbus does not exist. There were no laws. No laws of the foot. No laws of the foot. No foot laws. There was no cutting off of the foot. You did not march along the river. There was no river. You did not march. You did not go. You did not mobilize. There were no conquistadores. There was no cavalry. There were no horses. There were no weapons. There was no falling. There was no shooting. There was no running. There were not corpses along the river. The trees did not cry. There were no new laws. There were no foot laws. There was nothing. There was nothing. You were not there. And 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 you were not there. There was no rebellion. There were no slaves. There were no land. There was no rebellion. 500 years ago in 1521. There was no rebellion. There was no first revolt. There were no foot laws. There were no ghosts along riverbanks. There's no frozen howl in the deep dark sky. There's no book of sighs. There's no frozen howl in the deep dark sky. There's no frozen howl in the deep dark sky. There's no book of sighs. There's no rebel on the ground dead. There are no 500 years of corpses strewn along the rivers. No cuts, no bruises, no corpses. There was no rebellion 500 years ago in 1521. No wounds in the sky. No digging on our part. No digging. No, 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 no. No dig, dig, dig. We are not diggers. We are not diggers. We don't care about names. We don't care about the names. There's no wounds in the sky. No ghosts. No remains. This was not the first revolt. This was not the first revolt. This was not the first revolt. There's no revolt. There's no revolt in 1521. How do you end it? How do you end it when there's no revolt? There was no revolt in 1521. No foot law, no slaves. There have never been any slaves. There are no foot laws, no book of signs. No 500 years, 500 years. The statues of Christopher Columbus did not shoot all the rebels, and they did not say, how dare they want to leave your plantation, my son. They didn't say that because there's no plantation, there's no Diego Colón, there's no slaves, there's no rebellion. How do you end it? How do you end it? How do you end it when there's no end in sight? How do you end it? How do you end it? Well, everybody, there was a revolt 500 years ago, and I allowed myself with the band Andy O'Mel, Andre Martinez, Justin Franco. Yes, exactly, yes. 500 years later, we told the first revolt. This was first revolt. This was first revolt.
it was not the last revolt. Thank you, everyone. The band, yes, exactly, yes. Andy, Omel, Andre Martinez, Justin Frankel, and I'm Amir, Parsa, and you're you. And thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Encore, really? The 3 hours? Okay. So, there's wine, there's food, lots of it. And I don't know if anybody wants to ask questions or you just want to drink or... Okay, no questions. Thank you everybody for coming. It is really an important date. I do want to say it. It was very, 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 very important for me personally to do something 500 years later, extremely important. I think this is a momentous event in the history of humanity. It's also from a literary artistic perspective very interesting in that it's an episode no one's ever talked about except for one group at the Dominican Studies Institute that I can again say thank you to. And it was amazing to be able to do this with these guys. I think it's a momentous occasion for a momentous occasion. And we hope you remember it. And maybe we'll do it again next year, every year. Thank you everyone for coming. Okay, we get up and